Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Rodrigo here with Asheville Cash Buyers and Asheville Real Estate News. Really excited to be chatting with Zach with Prime Mortgage Lending of West Asheville. And we're going to just be talking a couple of different points as far as pre-qualifications, just a couple of things to keep in mind if you are a FSBO on what you should be asking somebody who's a buyer, and just a couple of other tips as you jump through the mortgage process in a seller's market. Zach? Do you mind introducing yourself a little bit and explaining how you ended up in Asheville and what your background is?
Sweet. Thanks, Rodrigo. Happy to be here. Like Rodrigo said, I'm Zach Adams with Prime Mortgage Lending of West Asheville. I'm the branch manager and a mortgage loan specialist. And I got to Asheville actually by leaving California with my family, and we moved abroad, and we decided to come back, and we landed in the East Coast in a little town in the mountains of Asheville. It's been a journey. I love it. We're set up roots here, and my kids live in West Asheville. We live in West Asheville. They go to school here, and we have our office here. So knowing that it's a seller's market, what you can position yourself as a buyer and as a seller, just knowing what you to ask for is it's really important for buyers to be, both pre-qualified and sometimes even fully pre-approved.
Okay. And is there a major difference between the two, I'm guessing?
There can be.
Okay.
So you can get really quick on the phone, 10 minutes, and get a pre-qual letter and be on your way.
Oh, so that doesn't mean too much, does it?
However, it does not mean much. What we do, at least with our buyers, is we call it a pre-qualification, but we run credit. We look at everyone's financials in regards to income, asset statements, and with that credit, we make sure that when we issue a pre-qualification letter, it's going to be legit.
Okay.
For your buyers here and those that are self-employed in Asheville, it may take one extra step.
Okay.
And what that means is a full pre-approval. You take that borrower. There's no property yet. We run them through every stage of the loan process. So, we do disclosures, we process their loan, we underwrite them. So we have a live underwriter actually look at their file and approve them. So that's a loan commitment. That helps when someone has complicated tax returns, maybe some credit blemishes from the past, or if someone just is in a business that's sort of transitional and they want to make sure that they're solid.
So once you have that loan commitment, does that mean if I'm a for sale by owner and somebody says, hey, I'm pre-approved, does that mean that if we agree on price and terms that me as the buyer would be able to perform on my contract price that I would have with the seller?
Yeah, absolutely.
Pending on appraisal or things of that nature?
Yeah, one, it helps expedite that transaction. So the buyer can move that much faster because they've done that 2 weeks of already pre-processing and underwrite. Yes, at that point, once they're under contract, we would order the appraisal. So property-related issues that might come up through inspections of the appraisal would be the only hitch.
So it wouldn't be contingent on the buyer's, credit or financial position or anything like that?
Exactly. So it really positions the buyer. And from a seller's perspective, if you get a pre-approval letter versus a pre-qualified letter, that says a lot more about how much more qualified they are.
The process also speaks to the seriousness of the buyer, right? It means that they've committed a lot more time, energy, and effort to the process of being ready to buy a house. Would that be a fair statement?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's sweat, so it takes some preparation in the documents, and just making sure it's really like a real live loan. We call it a TBD credit only program.
Okay.
So yeah, it definitely takes a lot more commitment, both on the lender as well as the buyer.
Quick snapshot. How long does that process take for somebody who's trying to get a pre-approval letter? How much?
I would say about a week or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of paperwork intensive?
Intensive, yes.
Okay.
It's a good word.
Fair enough. What else should we be aware of in the climate market in regards to loans and whatnot?
Yeah, so a couple of things that I want to demystify. One is on credit. Okay. Some people are from the era of the Great Recession, so they saw over leverage and they decided to step completely outside of the utilization of credit. And that can sometimes be harder for a buyer to obtain a loan when they have no credit history versus, say, bad credit. Right. So with that being said, you want to have a few trade lines that you're actively using. It doesn't mean you have to be in debt or carry debt, but just showing that you have a responsibility of how you manage credit and that you can access it, and knowing that you can access it, you're not over leveraging. So that's the first thing, is just credit utilization.
So you would encourage somebody to have, if it's like a secured credit card or something like that?
Yeah, for someone that doesn't have any credit, or if they're young and want to establish it more quickly, a secured credit line is really great. Okay. Most major banks offer them They do report to all three bureaus, so make sure that you're not going to like a small credit union that may only report to one bureau.
You want one that does all of them.
You want all three bureaus. And that way you can kind of grow your credit that much faster and get a bit more robust in the credit profile. With bad credit, that is something that may take time. Every situation is different. But if you think you have bad credit, you got to start somewhere. So I recommend, at least talking with a local lender. We do have, credit, repair companies on hand that we can help you with. But most importantly is getting a snapshot of where you are. And some people who think they have bad credit actually, meet the minimum requirements. So that sweet point of minimum requirements is somewhere in the 600 to 620 for a FICO range. Okay. And there are other types of loans that require higher credit scores, but that's a good benchmark. 620 is kind of the number that gets you into most programs.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Anything else?
The other thing I want to talk about is demystifying down payments.
Okay.
So for those folks, we understand that being a seller's market, prices are up. So buyers are seeing less inventory, and the inventory that's on the market is more expensive. So, the affordability question in Asheville is definitely an important topic. Mm-hmm. So to speak to that, you can definitely enter the market with minimal to no down. And it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a government-related program.
Really?
So we have a new affordable home program through Fannie Mae. It's called Home Ready. Okay. It doesn't require you to be a first-time home buyer, and you can also own other real estate.
Really?
But the minimum down on that is 3%, and it's a conventional type loan, so you have pretty good credit. For someone that has a 680 or above, you get premium pricing, you get reduced rates on your PMI, and essentially you can almost use a tax refund to get into a home.
Yeah, 3%. That's very reasonable.
Definitely.
Very cool. Well, Zach, if somebody had more questions, or if they're kind of wanting to pursue this conversation, what's the best way for them to connect with you, or to reach out or do a little bit additional reading on any of the topics we touched on today?
For sure, thank you. They can visit our website at goprimeasheville.com. Okay. We also have a retail space in West Asheville at 862 Haywood Road, or just stop on by, give us a call at the office. Our telephone number is 828-348-1907.
And of course, I'm going to include this for anybody watching. All of this information will be there in the notes under the video, so you can just click through on the link or get the phone number directly. So, everybody, thanks again for joining us for another episode of Asheville Real Estate News. Once again, it's Rodrigo with Asheville Cash Buyers and Zach with Prime Mortgage Lending of West Asheville, and looking forward to connect with anybody. Once again, if you have any questions, if there's any topics you want us to touch on, follow us on Instagram or connect with us on Facebook. You can see the links right here below. And until the next one.